All right, everyone. Good morning. Thursday morning. I always just check the day and the date before I start to make sure I'm right, guys. It's Thursday, the 25th of July. 2 months on from the Scottish Cup final, and we've not signed an outfielder yet. It's always good to start on a positive note, guys. I guess the good news is that you have both caught up in some sort of sleep, given our extravaganza after the Man City game yesterday. Is that or is that not the case, Tony?
It is indeed, but I'll give you a positive note. On this day, 27 years ago, Celtic signed Henrik Larsson. There we are now.
Oh.
25th of July, 1997. So,
How did that go?
I think he did okay, I believe.
Was he good, eh?
Just off the top of my head, 242 goals in 315 games. And as everybody knows who's a regular viewer of this, they'll know that because I described every one of them. So there you go. Those stats are ingrained in my noggin, as they say. So,
what's your given you've done all that, away from the obvious one that we all agree is his best goal, what would his Nick's best goal for the club be?
Wow.
Header against Porto. I know we lost that, so it kind of diminishes it slightly. It shouldn't, because that header from the angle against Porto for me is unbelievable.
I think because of what it meant, I would say his colour against St Johnstone, which set Celtic on their way to shattering Rangers 10 in a row, only because of the enormity of the occasion. Again, it's not his best goal, but the goal against Boavista for what it meant, you know. So it depends how you feel about those kind of things. You know, I mean, he scored some wonderful goals. He had a great hat-trick in the League Cup final against Kilmarnock, didn't he? Well, the last goal was like a 5
Remember a volley against Rangers in the 3-3 game when he controlled it, bounced it, and then swung it in. I loved that goal.
Yeah, so I mean, of those 242, they all flash through your mind, don't they?
Yeah.
Those, there was some wonderful diving headers as well. So there you go. Ryan, you got a best goal? You got one that is up there, or?
Either goal against Porto is right up there. Can't really. I know we've said every goal apart from that, but the chip against Rangers is just absolutely incredible. Every single time you watch it, you're like, he's not going to do that, he's not going to have the audacity to do that, and he does that. Yeah, just an impossible job for anybody to try and follow. Henrik Larsson, just what he brought. Everything about him, the mystique about him, the hairstyle or lack of hairstyle in the latter stages, having the dreadlocks and not having the dreadlocks, the goals that he scored, the amount of games that he played as well. I don't think that Celtic will see that
ever
again. Of loyalty ever again. That quality of player for that long, honouring a contract for that amount of time. 7-8 years he was at the club.
7 years.
7 years, absolutely incredible, magnificent 7 years. It just, there's a mystique about Henrik Larsson that I think just grows by the day, and it's just, even though I didn't see him that much growing up because I was a bit after his time, unfortunately. You go and watch the goals and you're like, what a player that Celtic had on their hands for so long. So yeah, enjoy watching his goals as ever, and it's always good to talk about him and celebrate him.
There's a wonderful diving header he scored against Dundee United at Hampden.
Yeah,
and
picture it.
Yeah, Jim Laughlin was marking him, and I did a piece. It was one of the first pieces I wrote for the Celtic Way. It was 7 defenders that that tried and failed to stop Henrik Larsson. I'm putting in the comment section just now, and Jim Laughlin spoke about that goal, and he said he went in at half time, and even Alex Smith, who was the manager of Dundee United, said to Jim, sometimes you just have to bow your head to genius. He said there is nothing you could have done there. He scored that from an impossible angle, and it was only a player of his calibre that could do that. You can picture the goal. I'm sure most people who are, you'll remember it, and if you're not, you'll go and have a look at it. But I just thought that's what a way to sum them up. Just clap your hands and just doff your cap to genius, because that's what it was.
Said this before, but I'm pretty sure I only ever saw him score one goal, and it was against Celtic. So there's a certain irony in that, and McLaughlin P bringing that one up for Barca at Celtic Park. That's still, looking back, is a pretty mad thing that happened that you kind of forget about willingly or unwillingly. Alan Thompson, poor kind of back header, wasn't it? And he just took that expertly on the chest and into the net. I think that was my first Champions League night at Celtic Park. Charlie saying we would sell him if we had him under the current business model, which is sadly very true. I think Larsson would have been away by now. If he certainly wouldn't play 7 seasons, would probably get 2 seasons out of Larsson and then he'd be shipped off down south. But that's just the way things are these days. Anyway, there's a few things to chat about today. We'll maybe have a wee chat again about the Man City game, see if anything fresh has come to our mind. There's been a bit of chat about transfers as well. Brendan Rodgers spoke about it after the game. I wonder how much is actually that exciting. But he says he's had a meeting with Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay. And he says he and they know the targets Celtic want to bring in. So interesting, I guess. First of all, just a big thanks to our sponsors, MPH Boilers, for showing support to the channel and this video. And if you're looking for a winning heating solution for your home, MPH Boilers is your go-to team. As you know by now, they are award-winning, they're family-run, and they serve all of mainland Scotland. They bring the best in boiler installations and servicing, and they're partnered with Weissman, who are known for their top-notch German-engineered boilers. So check them out, mphboilers.co.uk for more details. What have we got? 5 days left of this, guys?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, do you want to go, Tony? Do you want me to go? I'll go. For a chance to win a signed 2023-24 Celtic home shirt, just subscribe to the Celtic Way before the 30th of July at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £1 for 6 months. All existing subscribers are automatically entered. You'll get all the access to our pre and post match pieces on the Chelsea game that's upcoming. You know, the Celtic playing a couple of days against Enzo Maresca's Chelsea. So if you want all the best news, opinion, tactical pieces before that game, then join us on the Celtic Way and you can win a 2023-24 signed Celtic jersey with all your heroes from last season. So get involved, and thanks to everybody for taking part thus far.
Yeah, it's much appreciated. A couple of bits of news, guys. You can comment on it if you want. You don't have to. Ben Siegrist has officially left us Rapid Bucharest, as we thought he signed permanently. 2-year deal, working with Neil Lennon now. Anything to add at all on Ben Siegrist? I guess it never really worked at all for him at the club.
Nah, I think we spoke about him the other week, didn't we? And I wrote a piece about him, and it's we had high hopes. He didn't fulfil those high hopes. He's now gone. Hopefully he can resurrect his career under Neil Lennon at Rapid Bucharest. We wish him all the best. But it is a case of what could have been.
We spoke a lot about Schmeichel yesterday. What do we think of Sinizalo so far, Ryan?
I think he looked okay. I don't think he could have done anything for either goal that he conceded the other night. The header was too close to him, and it's Erling Haaland. There's so many better goalkeepers that have suffered the same fate coming up against Erling Haaland. And I thought the other goal, was it from Peroni, Maximo Peroni?
Peroni.
Who looks a good player, by the way. He looks quite a good player for Manchester City. Yeah. It was a good finish. I don't think he could have done much about that as well. It was a good curling finish. So, I think his distribution looks good. He wasn't shy on hoofing it up the park as well, if need be. That wouldn't have been the case under the previous manager. So, I think early signs look okay. I want to see him get some game time, maybe in the League Cup, maybe in the Scottish Cup next season. But in terms of the goalkeepers, it was Kasper Schmeichel who I was talking about after the game. I thought 2 of his saves in particular were, those game-saving saves that will really help Celtic in the Champions League. This is a guy that could help Celtic win points in that competition by keeping them in games with those spectacular saves that, let's be honest, he's done throughout his whole career, playing for Man City, playing for Leicester. It's what you expect from Kasper Schmeichel, and it's good to see that keeper is still there and still ready to make an immediate impact.
Hamish, my thoughts were, and correct me if I'm wrong, Celtic Sports think this as well, but I've got a feeling Schmeichel would have claimed that, the one that Haaland scored, or he would have made an attempt for it. I think he would have...
It was in the air for a while.
Yeah. I think he would have come out and So it would have been interesting to see if Kasper Schmeichel had been in when that cross came over. I'm convinced he would, because I think he would have fancied a tussle with Haaland in that sense. He just came out and went for it was everything. And I was talking to that about that with my dad yesterday, and he was of the same opinion as well. And I just think that Schmeichel, he looked very, very confident in everything that he did, and he was coming out for a lot. So I've got a feeling that he would have come out and contested that. Could be wrong, but I'm certainly confident in my opinion on that. And I just wondered if Celtic supporters would agree that. Nothing that's not dismissive or any criticism of Sinizalo. Thought he's looked okay. He's looked very good with his distribution, So, but yeah, I would love to have seen Kasper Schmeichel in goal for that, because I think he would have came for it.
I need to see it again to work that out. My feeling is that if that is the case, and Schmeichel may have done better and prevented a goal, then I've not really got an issue with that. I feel like that's kind of why we've brought Sinizalo in. He's a young guy who clearly isn't the finished article yet. Kasper Schmeichel is the finished article, isn't? I mean, I know he can always improve, and players are always learning throughout their career. But he has had a really good career, and he's not going to get dramatically better, I don't think, over the next couple of years. So that's someone who Sinizalo has to learn from, and I'm more than happy for that to be the case for the next couple of years. I want to see Sinizalo in the cup games, early rounds, definitely. When we get to Hampden, if we get to Hampden, maybe there's a debate to be had at that stage, and I'm sure that is a debate we will have. But I think the plan will be, and actually I think we will see that happen. I think Sinizalo will get the 2 cups in the early rounds, and he needs to spend as much time with Kasper Schmeichel and Stevie Woods and learn from those guys, because those are 2 really experienced goalkeeping professionals, and he clearly has something about him. I've quite liked him so far. Made a few good saves. I mean, he's already done more than Barkas did, and he's played 45 minutes, so that's always positive. Real scope for improvement, but just spend as much time with Schmeichel and Woods and learn from them as much as possible. And if he's going to make mistakes and they happen in pre-season and he learns from them for a competitive game, not got a problem with that at all. Is it anything else from the match you guys have kind of realised or it's come to your mind? Obviously Kuhn was a big talking point. I just want to see consistency now from Kuhn, but I made my point yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see something last night and I thought I would tweet out about it. Of course, it's about Rio Hatate. Everybody knows my feelings on that particular player. But it seems as if he's very locked in this season. There was a great clip of him speaking with Brendan Rodgers at length about tactics. I don't know if it was at half-time or just at the start of the game. It might have even been at the start of the game. But Hatate was very, very attentive to what Brendan Rodgers was saying to him. He looks happier on the pitch, even in the early parts of this pre-season. He looks very involved in the thick of things and wanting to be in the thick of things. That pass that leads to that sort of invigorates the team to the first goal against Manchester City is Hatate's best when he plays a cutting pass. A wee bit risky, yes, but when it comes off, it just gets the team going completely. I was impressed to see that, and I like to see that from Hatate, because a motivated and focused Hatate is a very, very dangerous player indeed. So hopefully that's the case this season. Doesn't look like he's going anywhere at this moment in time. I just want to see him kick on and play to the level that we know that he can play at.
It's what we've spoken about, isn't it? Keeping hold of the ball. Manager's clearly drilled it into his head. You'll be no use to me if you keep giving the ball away cheaply. And he's clearly listening. And I think that was maybe them having a wee discussion and Brendan Rodgers giving it, see, that's what happens. And Hatate recognising that and saying, you're right, yep, if I take care of the ball better, then these are the things that I can do. Because he's clearly told him, you're a talented player, but I need more from you in that creative sense, because it's there and it's there in abundance. But when you're giving the ball away cheaply and you're hitting risky passes in the hope that they come off, not hitting risky passes knowing they'll come off, it's a different mentality and mindset altogether. And I think he's channeled that with Hatate, who missed a lot of football last season as well. So, and as Hamish and we were speaking about yesterday, he's not at the Matt O'Reilly stage. There is nobody looking at Hatate right now. But that's not to say that if Hatate can reproduce that and replicate that consistently this season, they will start looking at him again. That's a fact. But I think Hatate was maybe another one who hit some kind of comfort zone and thought he was exempt from criticism. But the managers came in and went, woof, do you know what? You need to hold on to the ball better. You're a talented player, but you give it away too much for my liking. And that's why Rodgers is an elite level manager, because he makes players better and they listen to him and they carry out his instructions when he nails them for their faults. You know, had a public pop at Odin Thiago home and Bosun Lawal, and Odin Thiago home, even in the 2 games he's came on, has been a vastly improved player, hasn't he? He's given you more. And, you know, so that's the manager just saying, listen, talent alone ain't going to cut it in my team. You need to listen to me, and you need to do this, this, and this. And that's what I talk about when I say Rodgers is an elite level manager. It's not about results alone. It's about the things that he notices that educates you and I and educates players. And they listen and they learn and they become far better players. He does improve players, and that's what all elite level managers and great managers do. They improve players. They take them to where they want to go. Matt O'Reilly was 2 training sessions with him, and he was like, "This guy's great."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and we saw the difference in Matt O'Reilly last season, and you know, I think there was a lot of things better about Matt O'Reilly last season. The obvious one, and the thing I love about it, it was so public between him and Brendan Rodgers. They both made it public during pre-season last season. You need to score more goals. Lo and behold, he goes and scored more goals. So I'm interested to see if we're going to see something similar with a number of other players. Hatate, Kuhn are the ones at the top of my mind at the moment. Yeah. A few people, Maestro, talking about us breaking lines in midfield. John as well, passing seems to be a hell of a lot quicker. I think that's something that's been quite noticeable, and certainly if we talk about the 2 matches we've played in the US so far, we've scored 8 goals. How many of them? I think at least 6 of them. The 4 we scored against Man City were all very similar. They were all balls in behind. Celtic looking to break the lines into midfield, into Hatate, O'Reilly, and then also be really aggressive and get beyond the City high line. All 4 goals were like that, if you think, and certainly the last 2 against DC United were like that. So I think that's very obviously something the team have been working on in pre-season. It's something Rodgers wants to do. The side-to-side passing that we saw for lots last season is hopefully going to be a thing of the past in the main, and we're going to see Celtic going through the lines quickly because it's so much more exciting to watch as support. So I think that's something really to keep an eye on, Ryan.
Yeah, it's exciting football to watch. It's better football to watch. I think everybody who tuned in late or early, depending on what your time zone was, enjoyed the way that Celtic were playing against Man City. I thought it was quite enlightening to see them play at a quicker pace. You know, Hatate taking risks, but taking calculated risks with these passes that are going to work out rather than ones that are unlikely to happen. Matt O'Reilly looking a better player again, season on season, which is always a good sign to see, especially if he's coming up against an opposition like Man City. If he's showing up well there, then it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good because he can play against these levels of players. Bad because other teams will notice that. But he's a good player and he can't hide being a good player. So, you know, he's just doing his job in that regard. But I just think, you know, this increased tempo, increased pace is only going to help players that are quick on the ball, like Nicholas Kuhn as well. I know he's been the sort of media darling over the past two days after his performance against Man City, but I just thought he looked a completely different player to the player that we've seen for large portions of the second half of last season. Confidence, taking on his man, knowing that his man was struggling against him and continuing to go on and sort of isolate him and go one-on-one. That's the confidence I want to see. It's the confidence I've seen from Scott Sinclair and Brendan Rodgers' first season at the club. That's the example for Kuhn. That's the player that he's got to go for. Maybe James Forrest as well, but he's got to look at these examples and say, I'm the next player. He reminds me a bit of Patrick Roberts as well, but maybe a wee bit quicker. Maybe not as skillful, but a bit quicker. If he can be like that and be that sort of player, but it's also the fact that he's a permanent signing too. It's not as if he's a player that's on loan for a season. This is now the time for him. He's got another 5 years left on his deal. It's up to him to make this move his own and become a real mainstay, because at the moment, or for last season, it was James Forrest and him fighting out for a place. This season, he's got to take that right away from James Forrest and be the first choice right winger. And let's see if he can do it.
3 P's for me, Hamish: power, pace and penetration. Manager's banged on about that's how he wants his team to play. You saw it against DC United, who weren't up too much, but you definitely saw it against Manchester City. That power and pace and, the penetration that they got through the lines, as people say, call it what you like. And that's the prototype for Brendan Rodgers' teams. That's the way he wants them to play. He's still waiting to get every individual member of personnel in, but you're thinking if they do spend money, according to his comments, and that's the $64,000 question now, isn't it? If this guy's given the tools to really do the job, then he can take Celtic to where he wants to take them. With the players that he needs and that he craves and he wants. And I think that's exciting, because you kind of saw the other night, there is something there if Brendan Rodgers can, if the board can deliver and give Brendan Rodgers what he wants, and he's getting a tune out of the likes of Kuhn now. But again, we're talking about consistency, so we shall see what happens with that. But lots of positive things. Hatate listening, Matt O'Reilly just being Matt O'Reilly, Kyogo back amongst the goals, but making those runs and just being intelligent and clever. The young guys coming in, making an impression. All augurs well. But if we can all see where the deficiencies are in the team, the manager sees that tenfold, and he kind of applied a wee bit of pressure there with those statements, didn't he? He was just sort of saying, back over the net to you guys. This is what I need, this is what I want. They know the targets, so let's go and get them. But it might take a while. It might take until the end of the August window for all of that to be delivered, or some of it.
That was the kind of big takeaway for me. It's just interesting when you're listening to all those players, and even after the game yesterday, I don't think we mentioned Callum McGregor once after the game, which is just kind of interesting. He's obviously going to have a huge part to play this season, but it's kind of going under the radar a little bit, albeit he's only played a couple of games. Robert making I think a very pertinent point that I think some of us made yesterday as well, that it'll be different when we come up against the teams in Scotland. We won't have that space there. So again, that's a different challenge for the team, but we didn't struggle with that too much at the end of last season. We didn't struggle with that during Ange Postecoglou's reign or Brendan Rodgers' first season especially. So we can certainly deal with that. It's just a different challenge. In terms of players coming in, David saying that Brendan Rodgers' confidence has eased his concerns. However, he threw the recruitment team under the bus if it does not work out. So Brendan Rodgers' comments, as I say, yesterday, I had a long meeting with Michael and Chris. We know the targets we want to bring in. Still a long way to go in the window. Our concentration is that we know what we want to do, the priority positions we want to improve. I'll make it clear to the Celtic supporters, we want to improve, get better. We don't want to stand still this season. We know we want to improve the squad. And by the end of the window shutting, I'd expect us to do that. So for me, and it's a point I made the other day, I think Celtic view, as fans, we have these different deadlines. We had the deadline of the team getting on the plane to go to the States, and we wanted players in by then. And now the deadline seems to be, can we get players in before the Kilmarnock game? And we might, but I think the club only have one deadline here, and it's August the 30th at 11:30. And I think that's the only deadline they care about, frankly. So my question is, Ryan, if we get all the positions we need in before August the 30th, it surely is a positive window. But also as supporters, I think we're right to have wanted the club to do things early, like we did under the previous manager.
Yeah, let's be honest. 2 signings at this stage of the window really isn't good enough. Let's be frank about that. 2, they've only really spent money on 1 player as well, and that's just $1 million on Sinisalo. The 2 players that were so key in Celtic winning the Scottish Cup this time 2 months ago still aren't at the club, and Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo. Those are players that were key to the successes of the second half of last season, particularly Ida. Celtic only have one striker at the moment in Kyogo. If Kyogo was to get injured, and the first fixture's a week on Sunday, who would play up front in his place? Daisen Maeda, who hasn't played there since probably Yokohama F. Marinos. Last time he probably played there was for Japan. What position would that put the team in? I just think you hear about these meetings and hoping and expecting. Actions speak louder than words here. The fact is they've only got 2 signings through the door, and there's positions on that field that need strengthened. Centre back, left back. They've been needing strengthened for over a year now, particularly with the left back position, and yet there doesn't even seem to be talk with left backs. There's no real link. The last link was Kieran Tierney about a month ago, and even then, that's pie in the sky stuff. I don't think that would be a great move necessarily if he was to come back due to his injury issues. But you're not even hearing about left backs being linked. The only left back news that you're hearing is the fact that Greg Taylor only has 10 months left on his deal, and he hasn't had any further talks about getting a new deal. So we're in this sort of limbo situation where it looks as if that Greg Taylor might move on after next season or after this season coming, but they don't have his replacement in, or the player that's going to take his place in the team. Actions speak louder than words here. And I've heard about these meetings. It's great that they're having meetings with Chris Mackay and Michael Nicholson. But where are the players? Where are the signings? They've got money in the bank. I feel like a broken record, but I did expect more at this time. The 25th of July by this point last season, and I know that some of the signings weren't great, or most of the signings weren't great. But Yang was through the door, Kwon was through the door, Mike Nawrowski was through the door. Even naming these players, and I know there's a counter argument to say that they weren't good enough for the first team, but there was players through the door. And I don't want them signing players for the sake of it, but it's the 25th of July now. 2 signings doesn't really cut the mustard for me, if I'm being honest.
The only the thing I would say is that transfers can happen very quickly, and they tend to happen very quickly with Celtic now. We hadn't heard really about Schmeichel. We'd heard his name mentioned as a rumour, but nobody thought it really were going to sign Schmeichel, and then suddenly we get a tweet from Fabrizio Romano, and then 3 or 4 days later, Kasper Schmeichel's a Celtic player. So just because we haven't heard of a left back doesn't necessarily mean that the club. Well, I really hope the club know who they want to move for, and from those Brendan Rodgers comments, if you trust what he's saying, we know the targets we want to bring in. They know who they want to bring in at left back. It's so frustrating as supporters because we don't know what's going on. And almost if we did have an idea and you heard loads of reports and you had an idea of Celtic were going for at left back, it'd be easier because you'd have stuff to go off. But we just have nothing in terms of a left back and centre back at the moment. But Tony Rodgers does still seem confident we're going to get what we need in before the end of August.
There can be a subtlety to Brendan Rodgers, and then that subtlety can be as subtle as a flying brick. That's a flying brick for me. Those comments. Yeah, he's calm and he's relaxed because he's told those upstairs what he needs and what he wants. It's now the onus is on them to deliver. They know how he feels about certain players. He said it in May when Adam Ida scored the winner against Rangers in the cup final. Adam Ida knows his feelings, the board know my feelings. Deals take time, and I get all that as well, but I think that was right. Okay, I've been patient here. I've batted off the questions, but we are now at the point where there has to be action, as Ryan says, and by naming the 2 that he had the meetings with, he's just sort of saying, right, these guys are involved as well. This isn't just on me. Before everybody thinks that turns their ire on Brendan Rodgers, he's just sort of saying there's a collective here, and we're all involved in this process. And trust me, we will get things done. I can understand your frustrations, but we are working on stuff. And come the end of the window, and as I said before, he said it again, he reiterated that Celtic will be a stronger team come the end of the window. Come the end of the window now has stretched that to August, the end of August.
Yeah.
Which, and it's disappointing because we wanted them in for the start of the season, the opener against Kilmarnock, Flag Day. But I think at this moment in time, if you're looking and nothing does happen between now and August the 4th, I think Celtic still have enough to take care of Kilmarnock. You would hope so, but you would hear the supporters if they didn't. That's the whole point. And we keep saying it, and I've said it all along, I've said it all summer, the Celtic supporters deserve new players to come into the club because they pour the money into that football club. They deserve the manager to be handed, I hate to say the phrase, a war chest, or, but I don't want Celtic to be frivolous. I've said that before. But I think this manager has earned the right to sign the players that he wants and the players that he's clearly taken to the board and said, I want him, and him, however many that may be on that list. It starts with, I guess, Bernardo and Ida because he really likes them and he wants them. But that list has to be burgeoning for me as well. A left back, a centre back, as well as a winger. That for me would, if Celtic do that before the end of the window, then we can all kind of sit back, relax, and think, yeah. But it's the fact that you just don't see any movement on any of that that's concerning as much as it's frustrating.
I think I think I've kind of noticed a few people saying what you've just said recently, and I actually tend to agree. And I feel like we've gone from the start of the window having like 7 or 8 players we need in to people now looking and saying, right, first choice centre back, first choice left back, left winger, Bernardo and Ida. And obviously, if Matt O'Reilly leaves, probably looking at a replacement there. But that's 5 players, and we probably know two of them. I know people will say, oh, we don't know what's happening with Ida, but let's just say for now that Ida is still who the club want up top. Like, it's not actually that many players in comparison to what we signed last summer. But I think what we need this summer is players who really improve the team and give us that bit extra in Europe. I don't even think about, when I think about us doing business, I don't even think domestic anymore this summer. It's all about Europe for me. When I think, oh, we're going to sign this player, I think, right, will he do in Europe? I don't think will he do against Hearts or even against Rangers in a weird way, because I just think they seem to be a bit of a mess at the moment. I think our goals have to be higher than that, and it has to be about, can this player come in and maybe not star in Europe, because that's very difficult to do in the Champions League, but can they come in and be an improvement on what we have in Europe? Because for the 1,000,000th time I say, I don't think we're a million miles away from getting some results in this Champions League, but the board need to show ambition. The fans are not going to accept projects coming in here. If we're waiting this long, the only way they're going to salvage it, the fact we're waiting so long, is if they genuinely bring first team quality in. And who knows if I'm hopeful about that.
Yeah, projects just won't cut it now at this level. And this amount of time, you're absolutely right. There needs to be quality. Whether that's the Royal Antwerp winger, that there doesn't seem to be any fresh information, but there's been no dissenting information about that player as well. So maybe that is further down the line. That would be a bit of quality. Watching some of the clips that he's produced or some of the footage that he's accumulated, he looks like a decent player. Playing in a decent league as well, and the Belgian league, so maybe he can make a difference in Europe as well. It should go hand in hand, and you're right in saying that we should be looking at players for Europe, because if that's the case, then they'll do it domestically. Good players will be able to do it domestically and then bring it into the European stage. It is all about Europe. The barometer for me has changed now. This new system, this new Champions League system, I want Celtic to be thriving, and as I want Celtic Park to be a fortress. I want them to be getting results away from home, because they've got some players that can do the business in Europe. We know that. We've seen it last season. If they can keep a hold of Matt O'Reilly, if they can get the best out of Lewis Palma, again, who scored goals in Europe last season. One of them was given offside, which was really harsh. It was the right decision, but it was still a moment for him. It showed that he can do it at that level. These sprinklings of quality over the next couple of weeks in the transfer window will be the difference between Celtic doing well in Europe and not. The one thing I'm interested about is now that the Champions League is on until the end of January, I'm presuming that any new signings that you do make in January are not eligible for the last game
Good point.
in the group stage. I've not actually thought of that.
I would assume they wouldn't be, because I think you name your squad.
You need to name your squad,
get
don't
to
you?
make changes. Yeah, you name your squad before the games. But I
It's
don't
only
know.
one
They
game,
might have
that's
some
the thing.
sort of 2 games. I think no.
Is it 2?
I think it's 2 in
There
January.
might
It's
be.
the same because there's 6 before Christmas and then 2 in January. So in many ways, and John Kennedy made this point, and it's kind of the same schedule as previous seasons because the 2 extra matches aren't until the new year.
They might make some kind of dispensation for that and give you a wild card
Possibly. See if I can find out quickly.
on your list. You know, for that eventuality that teams will sign in January, that kind of thing. So I'm only assuming because UEFA like to move the goalposts and these kinds of things, don't they? As they go along at times.
Yeah. Well, I'll maybe look that up for tomorrow's video. Steve's saying you're correct, Ryan. I don't know if that's about your point there or what.
This is why it's imperative that Celtic get the signings done before August the 31st, because this will impact into Celtic's January spending too. If those players can't actually play in the Champions League, if they can't, then all the players have got to be signed in August, forecasted for the end of January. So, it's time to get a move on for Celtic and the recruitment team. Whoever's in charge of that recruitment, it's not yet clear. Probably Brendan Rodgers is at the helm of it. More of a say in transfers at the moment than what he would have had last season. If that's the case and he's waiting for quality, then I've got no problem with that, as long as the quality comes through the door. Just at the 25th of July, I think the fact that it was 2 months since the Scottish Cup final, I would have expected more business to have been done in key areas and in areas where Celtic are lacking in reinforcements. But if those players are coming and all the work's getting done in the background, then I'm all for it, as long as there's actual quality coming in. It's not too late to bring in the quality, but time is ticking.
The manager's stressed that point though, hasn't he? There's still a lot of time, which stresses to me that they are going to go to the wire August the 30th, which also seems to me that they are looking at quality. Could be wrong in that surmising, but I've got a feeling that that's what it'll be. But I think you'll find that UEFA might make kind of dispensation for that as well, and do some kind of wild card rule of a player at least, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read it there as you were talking, and you know what rule books are like for competitions. But from my reading of it, the squad that Celtic will announce, I think a week or so before our first match, will be the squad for all matches from the first match in the league phase up to and including the final. So that's your squad for the whole tournament. But you can make 3 changes, but only for the knockouts. So it's like the old rule. So the squad we announced before the league phase will be our squad up until the end of the league phase, which kind of makes sense. And then if we make it through to the knockouts, we'll be able to change 3 players, so we could add 3 January signings, for example. So that's the rules, everyone. Fabulous. Riveting content, innit? UEFA rules. We love it. Anything else, guys, before we head off?
I like the interaction from Brendan Rodgers with Lewis Palma yesterday. That brought a smile to my face. Him getting
what did
using
he
his Spanish.
Estrella, Spanish for star.
The star.
I like Estrella as well. I like we're getting all the beers in the day.
We're getting all the beers at 20 to 11 in the morning. I love to see that as well. People will say, it's box office Brendan once again, but it just shows a good mix between, or a good relationship between the player and the manager, because you've seen Palma's face after it. He'll appreciate the fact that he's speaking Spanish to him, and probably speaking Spanish to him in training as well, because there is a bit of a language barrier. I know Palma is trying to learn English, but at the same time, it's good that relationship's there between the player and the manager, and he seemed quite chuffed that he was using his native tongue, or the one that he understands. That was good. And it was some nice comments from Palma too. I like to see that, and he's definitely a popular guy in America. The amount of Hondurans that came onto the pitch to try and...
I was going to say that actually. It's because folk came on the pitch and Rodgers commented on it at his press conference. He was asked a question about Palma as well from a kind of Honduran journalist, I think. So it's been a big... Palma's our big name out there at the moment, as far as the locals are concerned. So I wonder if that's going to have a wee positive effect on him and maybe jolt him into action. He scored a couple of big goals, well, not relatively big goals. He scored the winner on the other night, and he scored a similar goal on Trophy Day against St Mirren. So maybe there's signs of him getting back to some sort of quality as well. We'll wait and see.
We shall see.
That was what Rodgers was saying.
Just keep away from penalties.
He was saying that he was doing more work. He was doing more work off the ball as well. So he has shown signs of improvement in that regard. Maybe it's just maturity off the ball and his work. So fingers crossed, because that'll not to bring out like a new signing, but Palma's a good player. He just needs to show it on a more consistent basis. There's a player there. It's just all a bit unearthing him.
Again, it's that listening, isn't it? Manager's clearly told him what he needs to do to be a mainstay in his team or to get regular game time. Same way he's taken Hatate aside. Well, I've done it with Palma as well. Because there's something there with Palma, isn't there, that maybe worth persevering with. And I think the manager kind of sees that too. He can certainly make an impact, can't he? If he's not going to play, but he can certainly be an impact player and give you something.
Another one to keep an eye on, guys. Right, we're going to head, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in, etc., etc. We'll be back tomorrow for the final morning briefing of the week. So, yeah, thanks, everyone. Catch you